Joining us now is Danica Patrick, and tonight she's going to drive the number 7 GoDaddy.com Chevrolet in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Danica coming off a very strong performance at Road America. You've raced here at Kentucky Speedway before. Talk about maybe looking back at last week and then how you hope this weekend turns out for you.
Yeah, it was a it was a fun weekend last week in Elkhart Lake. It was perfect weather. It was had a fast car and ran really well throughout the race. So, all in all, it was a good weekend. Other than the last half a lap, and this weekend here, I've not driven a stock car here at Kentucky, but obviously I've driven an Indy car here quite a few times. So, I have the track pretty memorized in my head, but everything feels different when you get into these cars. So it's not been a super smooth weekend. The car's been, was pretty loose last night, and this morning it was pretty tight. So I feel like our last run before we did our qualifying run was definitely the best balance. So it's always such a relief when you go out with 12 minutes to go in the session and you haven't done a qualifying run, and you're like, okay, that's good. So that was a good thing, and hopefully we can make it tweak it here and there and make it good for qualifying, because having not raced here, asking a lot of questions, track position's important, and as Tony Jr. pointed out last night in the truck race, played a big part to take 2 tires here and get the track position.
All right, let's go front row here with Zach, and then we'll go to the gentleman in the back row, and then we'll go to Shannon.
Zach Heaver with the Indianapolis Star. Not to jump ahead too far, but about a month from now you'll be coming back to Indy. Can you talk about what that will be like for you, and how similar it will be than what you've done in the past, and how different it'll be?
I thought I knew everyone at the Indianapolis Star. I don't feel like I've met you before.
I'm a new guy.
Oh, NG. Okay. Well, we'll break you in. I'm looking forward to driving Indianapolis in a stock car. It's obviously going to be a little slower than in an Indy car, but I have such good memories, and I feel so good when I come into the track and just see the facility. So I think those good emotions, those positive emotions, translate to a lot of times can translate to a good weekend. So I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing the fans from Indianapolis. My family lives there. My sister and my parents do now. So it should be a fun weekend, and I look forward to the experience in a stock car.
Let's go back row. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Ken Spencer, WHAS 11, right here, Danica. Just about halfway through your full season, full time, kind of in these cars. How is the adjustment going for you? I mean, are you still picking things up every week?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I'm going to keep picking things up for years, as long as I get that chance. So, yeah, it's all new, and it seems like there's always something new to focus on, and to try and improve on. So, right now we're just trying to, I feel like we've really improved on overall pace on the weekend. Practice pace, qualifying's getting better. Starts and restarts are improving. Beginning of the end of the run, I feel like we're really competitive. It's just trying to make the car free enough that it gets through that middle transition where the tires have gone off a little bit. So, but we're continuously working on it, and will be every weekend for a long time, and in fact probably forever. I don't think you ever stop learning. It's just the learning curve and how much you're actually picking up slows down a little bit. But I would say I'm still in that full speed learning curve.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Shannon Spake, ESPN. Tony Jr. pretty fired up last weekend. Post-race, it's not the first time that I've heard him say that at times maybe you're getting pushed around a little bit on the racetrack, maybe bullied. What do you think?
Don't they watch the news? Bullying is the new not cool thing. I feel like as we improve every weekend and get better and get faster, you move up the grid a little bit further and you start racing with some cars that you haven't really raced with yet. And you need to feel each other out and know how far you can push each other and find the limits of what each other's willing to put up with. And so I feel like that's all it is. It's nothing that I haven't dealt with yet. You know, I'm remembering Phoenix a couple of years ago. I think it was one of the last couple of the year, maybe at the end of my first year, and I had been getting pushed around, and finally I kind of got the go-ahead from Tony to let someone have it, and I came down the bag straight and absolutely drilled somebody. And I don't really think anybody messed with me for a little while after that. So every now and again, you got to stand your ground, and it's no different than anyone else, but they're just new cars that I'm running around, and I'm glad for that. And you just gotta get used to it. Everybody's got to get used to it.
Gentleman in the front row, then we'll go to Woody, and then we'll come over here to Joe.
Hey, Danica, it's Dan from Albright and O'Malley Country Radio right here in front. Real quickly, you spent some time this week in Nashville with Miranda Lambert doing a video, Fastest Girl in Town. I'm just curious how that experience went, and if you have any insight on Miranda, because she's kind of a little feisty. If they call you feisty, she's considered feisty in the country music world, one. And what do you think about the relationship between country music and NASCAR now that you've moved over to the NASCAR side, and how important that is?
Well, NASCAR is clearly quite Southern, and you know, there's plenty of Southern accents around, and so Southern country music is a popular kind of music. So I think that's just basically the connection, unless somebody's got another historical perspective on that. Miranda was great. She asked me to do the video a while back, and when I got to the shoot and she was once she arrived, I appreciated her asking me, and she said, and every time somebody famous knows who I am, I always say, I can't believe you know my name. So, you know, it's a funny thought. I'm sure, I don't know, maybe I sound silly up here, but it's still really cool when somebody famous like that knows who you are. And so she said, oh yeah, I totally know who you are. She's like, for weeks now, it's me and my trainer, it's like going to work out for Danica, or like not for how did she say? She said something like Danica workout or something like that. And so every time, so just getting ready for the video. And so I was very flattered, and she was really sweet. She was, she's got a lot of pep and a lot of spark. Her and I got along. I just kind of feel like her and I are sort of kindred spirits, and we could be trouble together, as you'll see when the video comes out.
Let's go over here to Woody. Go ahead, Woody.
Woody Kane with MRN. Danica, you have talked about Indy a little bit ago, but another place you said you feel a certain comfort level with is Daytona. After the way that went for you earlier this season, do you feel there's some unfinished business there, and how eager are you to take another swing at that?
I don't know. It seems awfully early in my stock car career for somebody to say unfinished business. I'm just glad that I can go to places like Indianapolis in an Indy car, or Daytona in a stock car, and have those be places that I run competitively and run well. So, and I think for me at this point in my career, that is going to be kind of the first track that I'm going to have a good opportunity at, because it's, you know, it's pack racing, it's very fast, you don't lift off the throttle, and it's also the most like IndyCar racing, because that's what IndyCar racing's like on anything bigger than 1.1 mile, basically, anything bigger than that. So I think that's why those go well, and I'm glad for it. It's always nice to do well at big weekends.
Let's go over here to the right, Joe.
Joe Reedy, Cincinnati Enquirer. You've run here many times in an Indy car, and this track has a character all its own. How bumpy is it in a nationwide car, maybe compared to when you run an Indy car?
It's, I feel like I notice more of the bumps in the corners in the stock car. In an Indy car, coming off of turn 4, there's just such a kind of vicious bump drop off, and it always just rattled your head in an Indy car, because they're very stiff cars and they don't roll very much. But these cars, I feel like I notice it more in the corners, the waves and the bumps getting into the corner. And part of that's probably because you're lifting off the throttle and you're doing the pitch of the car is changing, and that kind of affects the way things feel. But in an Indy car, you just don't lift. So. You know, it took a little getting used to, especially last night, starting off when it was so hot outside and it was slippery. I, got out of the car after practice, and Joe Nemechek walked over, and he was like, wow, that is the worst I've ever felt it here. It was so loose, and it was kind of nice to hear somebody like that that's been around for so long to sort of validate all those feelings. It was tough to really get confident and get going with it being that slippery.
Let's go to Lee.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Good. Just hydrating.
Can you talk a little bit about Stiffy coming to your defense last week? What does that do?
You called him Stiffy. That's
Well,
so funny.
I've known him for a while.
It's just a funny name. It's not what you think. It's because he stiffs
it's
people
not.
on the bill. I know, but it still doesn't sound right.
You just made a lot of guys' day saying Stiffy, but anyway.
We can say it as girls, I suppose.
Hey now. What does it mean to have a crew chief behind you that so has your back the way he did,
Yeah.
because Jacques not a big guy, but, the Stiffy pretty much laid down the law to him last week and certainly had your back. What does that mean to your confidence, knowing your guys support you 100%?
It's a very, it's a really nice compliment. It's a big, it's a confidence booster. And it also, I feel it speaks volumes about kind of how they felt like the day was going. It's one thing to be out there in the car and hear like, we're pitting in 10 laps, you're doing a good job. I mean, to somebody ready to go to bat for you, literally, and stand up for you. So, he's always been so supportive. I mean, I even think about today and last night with practice and how no matter what I say, he's ready to change the car for me. He said towards the end of practice today that we really got off into some areas with the car that were way off base and not something that we had traditionally run. He said, but we're kind of back to where we started, and that's a good thing. So we're going to be all right. But he's willing to go there, even if no matter how long I've been around and no matter what he believes is right and wrong. If I say the car feels a certain way, he'll appease me, and that to me is probably the biggest thing for me as far as a believing in me confidence booster. But when somebody's ready to stand up for you verbally, I mean that's a pretty cool thing. And it's funny because he especially in the situation that he's somebody that I looked up to as a kid. It's like this whole fury of thoughts in my head about the juxtaposition and having watched him when I was a kid and just having the opportunity to even drive with him and then to be in that position where you look good. It's like that's just something like you kind of only dream about as a kid, to look good to somebody you look up to. But Tony's a great guy and a great teacher, and I have a lot to learn from him.
Let's go Claire, and we'll end with Mark. Go ahead, Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. With all the drivers being asked today about the comment made by your crew chief, it almost in the answers, and it plays out, may come across as you were kind of complaining about being a rookie or being shoved around, which you really have not done. You have never complained about being raced as a girl. So I wonder if as it plays out, it will come across as maybe you having said, hey, these guys are not racing me like they race everyone else all the time.
What's happened is that I'm just continuing along and learning and racing and like I said, racing with new drivers out there as we get faster and faster. And when things happen, I don't know how they should be. I don't know how it should be happening, so I don't have any perspective whether or not I should say they are or are not treating me fairly. I'm just trying to learn and be better for it all. And what happens is that the people around me that have been around and seen these things go down and watched how drivers interact with each other, they're telling me that this shouldn't be happening and that I am being treated a little unfairly and I'm getting roughed up a little bit. And that's just the learning process. It's no different than them telling me, look, when you go into the corner, you need to be right alongside of them. Don't give them the entry to turn down and get a good run. I mean, things like that, driving things. This isn't a driving thing. This is just how should this be happening and what should I do next? That's all this is. And so these people around me are just trying to teach me how to deal with certain situations that are going on out there.